Hey, I'm Anthony Cafiero, solution engineer at Sigma, and today I'll be walking you through Sigma for financial services. For the FSI space, there are three key reasons why Sigma. To start, Sigma was built to be as familiar as a spreadsheet at cloud scale. Imagine doing an ad hoc market analysis on billions of rows of data, using familiar functions and formulas without having to extract data. Building on this foundation, you can easily build Sigma data applications to capture decisions, take action, and run business processes, all without one line of code. Whether that's reconciling quarter end numbers, escalating an out-of-threshold trade, or simply adding commentary to an insight, Sigma is bridging the gap between analytics and action. Most importantly, this is all done on a secure and governed platform. We are stopping data exfiltration by giving business users the familiar UI to do their spreadsheet workloads. And since we live connect to the warehouse, we can inherit all of your centralized governance and security, allowing your users to create and collaborate confidently. Firms are finally able to extract more value out of their data while improving their governance posture, giving the business access to critical data in an interface that is familiar and intuitive. Now let me introduce you to our demo. A portfolio analyst's main goal is to mitigate risk and increase returns. They're constantly trying to understand where there's room for improvement, ensuring the best outcome for their clients. Much of their job is spent in spreadsheets, offline, ungoverned copies of data that get passed around via email as versions 1, 2, 3, 3A, 3B, and so on. And if it's not a spreadsheet, it's a dashboard, which gives them that surface level information, but stops them from getting into the critical details. This often leading back into spreadsheets. This is where they explore, enhance, calculate, and create the comprehensive plans for their clients. More broadly, this is just where they are comfortable. Problem is, you are inherently limited in a spreadsheet, meaning you are missing out on critical context that might play a vital role in your decision. Sigma is going to reshape that. Our demo is going to be split into two parts, ad hoc and action. We'll start out in the spreadsheet, exploring our market data at scale without having to extract it from the data platform. We'll use familiar formulas, lookups, and charting to answer our questions, and even collaborate with a few other folks as well. And then we'll shift into action, where our analysts use a Sigma workbook to merge insights with action. We'll use dashboarding techniques to drill down and custom views to uncover critical insights. And then we'll use these insights to help inform our scenario models, where we'll drive for a better outcome, mitigating risk and increasing returns. Now let's jump into it. I'm going to start out on the Sigma homepage. This is meant to act as a landing place for your end users, allowing them to quickly access their recent docs or top viewed workbooks in their organization. Before we get started on our ad hoc analysis, it's worth mentioning two things. One, Sigma was built for the cloud from the cloud, meaning everything we'll be doing today is browser-based and not limited to the confines of your desktop. Second, Sigma uses a live connection to your data platform, meaning you never need to worry about stale data or refreshing reports. The data you interact with is always up to date. Now let's get started. Our analyst is going to start by sourcing the market data they will use to understand portfolio performance. They'll access this via their Snowflake connection, which automatically inherits the permissions from the data platform, meaning they will only see the data they explicitly granted access to see. Our FactSet DB and Schema have all the data we need, including a pre-modeled view of our market data. This sample is about 1.2 million rows of data, which is already over the limit of most spreadsheet tools, but nowhere near the extent of cloud scale. Because we're leveraging the compute from the data platform, we can easily scale up to billions, if not trillions, of rows of data. To ensure this is a correct data set, our analysts might check out some helpful metadata points. Using column details, you can see a summary of top values and statistics, ensuring we don't have any unexpected nulls or fat-fingered dates. We can also improve our governance posture through the use of metrics and lineage. Metrics allow us to predefine metrics that have been standardized across the firm, locking down how these metrics are calculated while giving our users an easy drag and drop experience in their workbooks. Lineage offers us insight into where else this data is being used in Sigma. Perhaps one of these other workbooks will answer my questions. I now can see exactly where this data is being used. Once we're ready to work with this data, I'll click on Explore and drop this into a Sigma workbook. Now that this data is in my workbook, I can interact with it as if I were in a spreadsheet. Key difference is that I didn't have to export this data to do so. Let's start by duplicating our date column and truncating this down to year, knowing that I'm going to be doing a year-over-year analysis. This will help get my data set up. I can also introduce new metrics like the absolute high to low range, taking the difference between my high and low prices, renaming, formatting for easy consumption. I can also use familiar spreadsheet formulas to add new logic to my data. Let's say I want to highlight every time a security closes with a price over $400. I can use an if statement to do exactly that. Sigma shows exactly how to leverage this function and even provides an example. If my price is over $400, I want to flag this as such, or else it will be under $400. This is exactly how our analysts would do this in Excel. The biggest difference is that the data never leaves the data platform, and we didn't have to split the data up as to not blow up our desktop. Sigma is doing the hard work for us. It is translating my functions and formulas into machine-generated SQL. That is then pushed down to my data platform. This way, I don't need to know SQL, and data is truly always up to date. At any point, I can take a look at what's happening behind the scenes. Now that we have our market data prepared, we need to marry this with our actual holdings data. However, our holdings data doesn't live in the warehouse. It lives in a spreadsheet. In these cases, Sigma allows me to upload the spreadsheet to my data platform so that I can merge the two data sets together. Instead of having to export the market data and drop that into Excel, I can actually take the more secure route, upload my holdings, and then merge the two. Once again, Sigma is going to do the hard work for me, automatically provisioning a table in my data platform and storing this holdings data. Now we'll see these two data sets side by side. Next step is for me to merge these two data sets. I want to get my price and some other attributes from my market data to my holdings data so that I can calculate my daily P&L. To do this, I'm going to use a lookup. This will function just like a VLOOKUP in Excel and allow me to bring data from the market data set over to the holdings data set. I'll select my source data in the field I want to bring in. And what I notice here is that we have multiple matches for price. It makes sense since we have a price for each date. I'll add one more key field here to match the dates, and then we're done. We can now see our daily closing price in our holdings data. This lookup effectively creates a link between the two data sets, allowing me to quickly bring in additional data points from the market data, like name, sector, or industry. I can now calculate the notional market value for my holdings, which will be used to calculate the daily P&L next. To calculate that daily P&L, I'm going to group on securities so that we're organizing our detail rows by each security we're holding. And once I sort on that date, I can now use a window function, lag, to calculate the day-over-day P&L. I'll highlight this metric since it will be important going forward. I now want to summarize this data so that I can see if there's a particular trend or outlier that I want to dig into. I'll first start by dropping this into a pivot table, summarizing my daily P&L by sector and month. It's important to use conditional formatting here to also draw our attention to the right place. I'll also add a corresponding chart to summarize how much I'm holding across my different sectors. This now effectively becomes my jumping off point. I can begin to drill down, explore, and further enhance my workbook. The best part is that if I ever get stuck, I can live chat with a Sigma technical support engineer to answer any questions, no matter how simple or complex. Let's go ahead and save our workbook so that we can come back to it at a later point in time. I can either save to my documents or workspaces, which are shared folders. Now I can easily collaborate with the other team members as well. To recap, we started by enhancing our market data on top of our live connection to the data platform, inheriting the same governance and permissions defined in that data platform. Then we loaded desktop data through Sigma to our data platform, which unlocked the ability to merge these data sets together, calculate P&L, and begin to analyze our data. Now let's take a look at how we can use Sigma Spreadsheet UI to create a data application that bridges analytics and action for end users. In Sigma, action is just as important as insight. And what we've done is created a framework to create action on top of your analytics. In this portfolio analytics data application, I'm merging my analytics with next steps that may have otherwise lived outside of the data platform. As a portfolio analyst, I'm keen on mitigating risk and increasing returns. So step one is understanding where there is room for improvement. I can use visualizations and dashboarding to understand trends and begin to detect anomalies. And while this dashboard might look similar to the traditional BI tools, we will very quickly push past the limits of traditional dashboarding. At first glance, I can see some key metrics, a summary of my portfolio, and some trends over time. I'll use the switches here to change the time grade I'm analyzing by, giving me the flexibility to switch between them on the fly. You can also see that our healthcare portfolio is by far our largest in total holdings. I'm curious what makes up the majority of that portfolio. What you'll notice here is that I can drill anywhere in Sigma. We don't have to predefine where a user wants to go, giving our analysts the flexibility and freedom to explore in a more ad hoc way. Let's take a look at what sector makes up this portfolio. Or perhaps we want to take a look at individual CUSIPs in this portfolio. I have the flexibility to slice and dice in any direction at any grain. Let's take a look at some of our low performers in this pivot table. I'm curious if there's a specific industry that's contributing to the poor performance in our energy portfolio. Let's go ahead and drill down. It's clear that electronic equipment is a major contributor. I can continue to drill down, or I can step directly into the underlying data to find that needle in the haystack. Here we can see ConocoPhillips as our primary holding. We can also see all the other data points we have to work with. Let's say I'm interested in understanding the max and the min of the high and the low price, better understand price volatility. In other tools, this would require a JIRA ticket, and most likely a long wait time to get these metrics added to the workbook. Why not use Sigma spreadsheet simplicity to surface these metrics? Here, I'm creating my own custom view on the workbook. I'm not editing anything anybody else is seeing or what is published, but instead I'm creating a custom view that can then be saved and shared with other users. With my quick analysis and added metrics, it cleared me that energy portfolio might benefit from some changes. To make these changes, one thing is vital: the changes and assumptions that live in my head. Traditionally, in order to merge these with existing data, I would export my holdings, drop them into an Excel model, apply my changes, and see what the impact was. Problem is, this has often rendered useless because data is immediately stale, I lose track of my changes, and I'm often having to limit my exports, so I'm missing critical context. Using Sigma, I'm now able to facilitate this entire workflow within the security and governance perimeter of my data platform. I'll start by introducing a new scenario for my analysis. You can see here I have a number of past scenarios as well. These will come into play in just a moment. Once I add this new scenario, you'll notice my window updates. I now can see my current and adjusted value at risk, and I have a few extra columns in my holdings data. This is where I'm going to apply these changes. So in this case, I might want to increase my shares in APA Corp, adding commentary for my change. I might want to decrease shares in Chesapeake Energy as per the latest guidance. And I can also use an assistant to make relative, absolute, or percent changes to my holdings. Sigma once again is doing the hard work for us. We are on the fly writing this data directly back to the data platform in a dedicated schema and table that tracks all the changes that are being made. This securely stores all the data I have written in, the user, and the time it was updated as well. This is a controlled and governed approach to data write-back. We're not overwriting existing data through the warehouse. Instead, we're writing new data in that can then be joined back or leveraged in a downstream process. And lastly, I can also use the power of AI to help augment my decision. Let's say I want to check the latest analyst recommendations on Diamondback. I can use the data platform's AI or LLM functions and Sigma's live query capabilities to invoke that model and retrieve the latest research report in seconds. We can see here Diamondback has a hold recommendation, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. With Sigma's live integration to the data platform, business users can use AI to augment their workloads and make more informed decisions. Now that I made all my changes, I'm going to go ahead and review and save my scenario. Now, since these scenarios now live in the warehouse, I can actually do comparative analysis across all of my different scenarios, allowing me to pick and select the optimal scenario to proceed with. In conclusion, our data applications merged analysis with action in Sigma. Here we were able to analyze through visualizations and dashboarding, understand trends, dynamically drilling down, and creating custom views for the most tailored experience. We then created multiple scenarios to simulate a portfolio rebalancing in order to mitigate risk, effectively writing this crucial data back to the warehouse to help facilitate our workflow. In summary, Sigma is the business user interface for the cloud data platform. Whether their workload is ad hoc in nature or requires some sort of action, Sigma allows them to leverage data in a controlled, secure, and governed environment. Thank you.